Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to seal the minutes of the closed session. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, Mrs. Costa. Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus,
Yes.
Mrs. Costa,
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
At the closed session, on a 5-0 vote, the committee approved the negotiation team for the Woonsocket Guild contract negotiations. And on a 5-0 vote, the committee approved the negotiation team for the AFS-CME Local 1137 Council 94 contract negotiations. Would you please stand and join me for a moment of silence on the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. McGee, we have some guests. Would you like to introduce our guests?
I would love to. Mr. Ernest and Mrs. Barboza, if you would kindly bring our visitors from Woonsocket High School to the podium.
Can you show something?
Yeah.
I think we have to go on thing.
I think.
We're supposed to get up for a presentation. It's coming on the doodad. Supposed to.
Okay. We'll drop the screen for the presentation, but you're gonna need that. You read that?
Can I watch it?
It's, I linked it to.
Thank
the
you.
agenda. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Supposedly this is all queued up. Right? Are you a sophomore as well?
I'm a junior.
Junior? And you're a sophomore. Okay, while the screen's coming down, I'd like to introduce a couple of students that are going to be presenting tonight. This is Jayliana Rivera. She's a junior, and this is Raymond Canales. He's a sophomore, and they're in our theater program, but they're also the driving force behind a presentation that we had just a week or so ago to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Where's Adam? We do the full screen on that. Thank you, please, and thank you. So Hispanic Heritage Month is September 15th to October 15th. And I'm going to change the slide and turn this over to our two students. Go ahead.
Guys.
Hi, my name is Raymond, as Mr. Ernest said. So a couple of weeks ago, me and Jayliana had the idea to do a Spanish Heritage Month because we seen that like we didn't have really much representation going on. So we came up with some ideas. It took us like 5 days to come up with like stuff to do. And then we brought the idea to Mr. Ernest and then, and Miss Croft and Miss Barboza. And the idea came alive. It was for grade 11 and 12. And it was just a really nice thing to do to just show that like everybody's like equal and like coming together as like one whole, like as a family. You can switch the slide.
It was performed by the dance team. Yeah, and choreographed by us too, as well.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I was most pleased with, this was completely student directed. And we did an assembly for grades 11 and 12. And it was based on cultural diversity. And one of the things I'm most proud of is these two were the driving force of all the music, the choreograph, the costumes, soup to nuts. So they did the entire show. So I'm very, very proud of these guys. So you want to talk a little bit about this?
Yeah. Hispanic Heritage Month was initially a week-long celebration when it was passed into law in 1968. 20 years later, a bill was introduced that extended the week to a month-long celebration. September 15th is also the Independence Day for Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, Mexico follows, celebrating their Independence Day on the 16th, and Chile celebrates theirs on the 18th. This is why Hispanic Heritage Month actually spans 2-month calendars instead of one. Hispanic Heritage Month celebrates U.S. Hispanic and Latin communities and individuals. It actually spans 2 months, beginning September 15th and ending October 15th. We weren't able to put it in within September 15th and ending October 18th because the idea was between. So it took us time to put it all together and present it. So unfortunately, it was after, but it all worked out.
The Broadway stage home is home to many well-known Hispanic Americans, including Puerto Rican dancers and art makers Luis Salgado and Chita Rivera and Rita Morano, and Argentinian American dancer Graciela Daniel.
So the process of it was to develop and submit a proposal to the principal and pitch the idea, which we did. Mr. Ernest, once approved, we submitted. We went to Ms. Croft and told her a little bit when we wanted to do it. We planned and designed the routine, costumes, music, and moves for the performance, which took us a bit of time. Costumes for the whole group deciding on one thing was hard, but we eventually all organized it, and everybody wore white flared tops and black leggings. Me and Raymond wore, and some wore jerseys as well. Me and Raymond wore jerseys and red shirts and bell bottoms, and we performed at the end of it. We performed in front of a live audience.
Yeah. The reason was to support diversity and equality and inclusion in our school, celebrate in a culture-responsive way, connect to students' heritage with music and dance, and share this connection with all students and have fun and perform live.
These are just some pictures of
some
us.
pictures.
Questions
Questions?
for our distinguished panel?
Yeah. We wish we could have got a group photo, but unfortunately we couldn't find the group one. Eventually, I'll find it and I'll send it to Mr. Ernest.
Thank you guys very much.
But thank you so much for
Thank
having
you
us.
guys for listening.
One of the things that really tickles me is we did 2 assemblies, one for the 11th grade, one for the 12th grade. So I'm standing back, and in the middle of the 12th grade assembly, I look down, and all the kids are clapping with the music, and they're singing along with these songs that these 2 had choreographed for the performance. So I guess the theme of just watching our kids enjoy themselves and have a little fun was really, really special. And we hope to do more events like this in the future. And I want to thank them for all of their efforts. Guys, great job. Great job. The back half of the presentation isn't near as exciting, but we're going to do kind of an overview on bullying and harassment in schools, and then particularly what we're doing here in Woonsocket to strategies to address bullying and harassment as well. When you walk into the foyer, you look to your left, and we have a lot of posters up. So we're trying to visualize things. We're trying to get things out in front for anti-bullying, and there's a lot of different posters and reminders that obviously bullying is not something that we're looking for in our school. I thought I'd start out with just a couple of definitions. Our definition, which is in our policy and linked to the Rhode Island Safe School Act and the general laws, you'll find that in almost every school in Rhode Island. And it just simply lays out what bullying is, the definition of it, what it can cause. It's the use of one or more students, either written, verbal, electronic, or physical act, or any combination thereof. There's some examples as well. When you look to the National Center Against Bullying, the definition almost mirrors that. Coming from New Hampshire, we had House Bill 1530. It really outlines the imbalance of power. It outlines not only physical, it's social, it's cyber. There's a lot of factors to that. Also, the Anti-Bullying Alliance, which is more of a parent organization, has a similar definition, and it talks about the repetitive and intentional hurting of a person or a group by another person or group. And it can be more than just one person. There are bullies, there are victims, there are bystanders, so it's really involved. Our definition also talks about the physical act and then reasonably perceived. So the imbalance of power can be real or perceived. It's the lens of the student who's really feeling those emotions. It can be mental or physical, sensory disabilities, intellectual abilities. It really covers a wide gamut. Cyberbullying is probably one of the more common forms of bullying that we see. It's data, it's texting, it's signals, it's writing, it's you can get text messages and then they got messages that disappear. They got stuff that you got to encourage kids to screenshot it and email it to me, and then we got to figure out where's it coming from. People using each other's names in accounts. Sometimes I had nothing to do with that, but somebody used my account to bother this other person over here. So that's just kind of adds a whole nother layer to how complicated it is to get to the bottom of things. Bullying can happen online, digital platforms, devices. It can be hidden, overt. It can be in the wide open. Behavior is repeated. It has the potential to be repeated over time. Sharing digital records. Any form for any reason can have immediate, short-term, medium, and long-term effects for those involved. Some of the things that happen in middle school and elementary school surface at the high school level. When they start to kind of, hey, this has been going on for all of these years, and it's just starting to come to the surface and with the behaviors that we see. What bullying is not. It's not usually a single episode, although it can be. It is more a social rejection or dislike, episodes or acts of not being so nice to people, random acts of aggression, disagreements, not such nice behavior. Those are typical teenage behaviors that we see, and they aren't bullying usually. They can turn into that if they become repeated and targeted. That's what I wanted to talk about, some of the common themes. And what I see is an imbalance of power, whether that's perceived or real. It's targeted and repeated. It can be physical or emotional, and the effects can be, short-term, medium, or long-term. And that's some of the common themes that we see in schools today. This is the approach that I've used for probably 30 years, and it keeps getting refined, and we get more of dealing with today's child, but it's early identification, gathering all the facts, document. We have forms. If in your presentation you can link to our bullying form that's very detailed as what happened, when did it happen, who was involved, who saw it, who might have been a bystander. Early interventions, if you can find out about it. I want to even take it a step further with the early intervention is being proactive. And I think Ms. Barbosa could speak to that as well. As the amount of bullying that we have, I can count them on one hand, less than 5 right now. Substantiated cases of bullying this year. And I can think of 3, maybe 4. And with that, I can probably multiply that exponentially the times that we've been proactive, had meetings, had conferences, pulled kids in, done mediations to stop it. So the efforts to be proactive far outweigh the reactive part. And I think being reactive, yes, we take a firm stand, and that's what zero tolerance is all about. Because there's one thing that we really don't waver on is safety and security and bullying and harassment. There's no place for that in our schools. So we take a very firm stand. It's not about punishment. It's about logical consequences. It's about being firm and fair and consistent. We have a teacher and an administrative behavioral matrix that we follow. Step 1, step 2, step 3, and we stick to it. We stick to it. But the piece that I'm most excited about, and I think we do a really good job here at Woonsocket High School, is the restorative piece, the reflection, the redemption. Hey, I'm sorry. When you hear a kid apologize to another kid and it's sincere, then you can start with rebuilding. It's not until we can acknowledge what happened, accept it. Hey, I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. And then I'm really sorry. It won't happen again. And then we start to rebuild. And I've seen it go from being arch rivals to actually being friends and having it come back around. There's readmit meetings with families that we have. That's mandatory for any suspensions. We have a readmit meeting. We sit down with the families. We have counseling available. I think our counseling department and our social folks do a fantastic job. They know these kids ins and outs. They really do. And they support not only the students, but the families as well. And then with anything like this coming back in, we do a safety plan. And what's that going to look like? Sometimes we do no contact orders where we have to have kids stay away from each other. It's not like a court order, but it's something that we do at school where Johnny and Susie agree to leave each other alone, go about their business, respect each other, and then we can go from there. So that's the bottom line. That's a little hard to read, but that's the anti-bullying strategies 2023. One of the things that we haven't done yet is our survey, and that will be coming out soon for students. And then it's just kind of an overview for the year. I got my hands on that, and I wanted to share that with you as just more of a kind of a framework for this year. And that's kind of where we're going. But I wanted to really get into the principles of the strategies that we're using. What are we doing about bullying in our schools? And I think we're doing a really good job. We continue to fight the good fight, and we hold kids accountable, but we try to be firm, fair, and consistent, as I had mentioned before. So at this point, I'd be happy to open up to any questions that folks might have about bullying and harassment in our school and how we handle things and our strategies moving forward. Great. If I don't, yes, go ahead. Yes, I believe so. Yeah. I don't know, but I can certainly take a look at the three years that I've been here, and then maybe try to go back a couple of more years and get that answer for you. No, I have seen kind of a decrease since I got here. It hasn't been a lot of bullying and harassment, but there have been several instances. And then I think where that's it. Yeah.
But to that point, we certainly see a lot of students coming to us about things. So I think that I've seen an increase even in the last year, and it could just be a change in position. But the preventative work that Mr. Ernest was talking about, students, as soon as something happens, they are communicating with us that something is not right, that this didn't feel right. They're not sure. They want to talk to us about it. So then that's when our deans come in and really do a lot of unearthing of what's going on and doing those mediated conversations. And sometimes it was just a kind kind of a misunderstanding or taken the wrong way, and other times it's compounded by other factors that are going on. So I think as far as like our reporting out on things that are substantiated, like time, the repetitive component, not the single incident component, that's been pretty steady. I think last year we had just a couple. This year, maybe this year we're on a little bit of an upswing because we already have a couple, but we haven't had like this overwhelming amount. But the amount of preventative work we're doing seems to be higher this year, but it's almost like this weird positive because they're coming to tell us and seeking out problem solving, like ways to problem solve it. So that's been like a good thing. Definitely with our peer mentor program, we are partnered with different agencies to try to give those students focused resources and expertise. So we work with the Nonviolence Institute, we work with the Sojourner House on healthy relationships, substance use and prevention, and then with the Collins Foundation. So though we don't right now have a mechanism to like collect data where we could say there's a direct cause effect, there is a correlation between like the conversations that those students are having and how they want to share and going into the ninth grade classrooms. Yeah.
Great job.
I thought they was coming with me too, and he decided not to.
All right. Again, I want to thank all of you who presented tonight for excellent presentations. They were very informative. Keep us in the know. Please come back to us with any updates on your programs. Great job. Again, great job. Now we'll go into public comment for anyone addressing the school committee during good and welfare. Please begin with your name and address. Your comments shall be no more than 5 minutes of speaking time and should be in good decorum. Please be aware that the committee cannot respond to you during good and welfare, but may direct you to an appropriate member of the administration team or may meet with you directly after the meeting for further discussion. I see we have someone at the mic. Would you please state your name and your address?
Sure thing. Thank you very much, everybody. My name is Jeffrey Wright. I reside at 101 Teresa Marie Avenue. I'm just going to share, over time, I'm just going to share 2 letters. There was one letter I was going to share 3 weeks ago here. I was able to share it with a couple of people in this room. And then just a couple of thoughts that I had tonight. So I'll start with the thoughts that I had tonight. So I'll start with that. So the vision for the Woonsocket School Department states, it is continuously improving teaching, leading, and student learning by cultivating a community of problem solvers, critical thinkers, researchers, effective communicators, creators, and reflective thinkers. I think we can all agree that that is happening based on the presentation by these awesome students tonight, and based on their school leader as well. I urge this committee to reflect on decisions through the lens of the community's unique needs. I encourage this group to take a proactive, self-reflective approach, emphasizing that thoughtful choices aligned with the district's vision can significantly improve the educational landscape by doing the following: changing efforts into empowering educators and students as problem solvers and critical thinkers, like we saw tonight. Develop initiatives encouraging teachers to find innovative solutions within limited resources, fostering an environment where creative problem solving becomes a shared skill. Also, implement programs that enable students to engage in hands-on, real-world problem-solving experiences, bridging the gap between theory and application. Now more than ever, effective communication within the community is essential, establishing channels that facilitate open dialogue between educators, students, and families. By weaving these elements into the educational fabric, the Woonsocket Education Department can bridge the gap between vision and reality, creating an environment where every school committee member becomes a resilient problem solver, critical thinker, and effective communicator, even in the face of the social economic challenges that we face within our community. New York City educator Rita Pearson stated in her 2013 TED Talk that every child needs a champion. Will you be the champions needed for the kids in this community? Lastly, I'm just going to read a letter that I was going to present a couple of weeks ago. Dear members of the Woonsocket School Committee, I'm here to express deep concerns regarding recent incidents of intimidating behavior exhibited by a school administrator. As a Woonsocket resident and educator who has experience working with the person who experienced this behavior, these incidents could profoundly and negatively impact the students in the broader school community. As my oldest child is about to embark on their educational journey in kindergarten, I find it troubling that behavior like this is acceptable. Educational institutions must focus on fostering a safe and inclusive learning environment for all stakeholders. However, recent events have raised significant doubts about this school district's commitment to meeting the standard. It is essential to address these concerns promptly to ensure our school committee maintains its goals of building and sustaining a learning community that educates the whole child. These incidents include inappropriate comments, aggressive communication, and a lack of empathy when addressing their staff. Such behavior does not align with the values we should uphold within our educational institution. Whereas being a role model for students is highly inappropriate. The impact of these incidents on our students and school community is tangible. It has created a sense of fear, unease, and mistrust amongst students and staff. The very person who should be fostering a nurturing and supportive environment within their school building is inadvertently causing emotional distress towards their staff and harming the educational experience of their students. I urge the school committee to take these concerns seriously and initiate a thorough investigation. It is essential to ensure that the school administrator is held accountable for their behavior and that corrective measures are put in place to prevent such incidents from happening in the future. It is moreover prioritizing training and development programs for the school administrator to reinforce the importance of a respectful, inclusive, and empathetic approach in all interactions with students, parents, and staff. Every student deserves a safe and nurturing environment where they can thrive academically and personally. It is the responsibility of the school committee to ensure that this environment is upheld and that our school community remains together. I appreciate your attention and look forward to your prompt and considerate actions to address these concerns. I thank each and every one of you for being dedicated to our school community and committed to fostering a positive and inclusive educational environment. Sincerely, Jeffrey C. Wright, Jr. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the school committee? Please come forward.
Hello, my name is Sophia Sheehan. I'm a Woonsocket resident, and I have 3 of my children out of 4 that are in Woonsocket schools. 4 of them were. One of them has completed school and is in real estate school at this current time. I wasn't going to say anything tonight. I was just going to come here and observe. I've never done this before, but I was encouraged by others to come up and say a couple things. So I just jotted down in my notes. So excuse my unprofessionalism or lack of it thereof. So some of my concerns, some minor, some a little bigger. I'll go ahead with the smaller ones first. And I would say that right now during this season is virus season. We have a lot of virus and bacteria. We have sneezing, coughing, runny nose, all this and that going on. So we all know that. I don't know if there's a budget for tissues, but it is something that I addressed with the assistant principal here at Hamlet. And as far as I understand, there is no budget for tissues for the students. That the students are allowed to come down to the principal's office and get some tissues as needed. That's completely unacceptable, and our kids should be able to go up to the desk or a couple of other places throughout the classroom and pick up a tissue to wipe their nose, because if not, we're going to have them wiping it on their sleeve, and we're going to create, my kids have already been sick. Two of them actually just went through an 8-day sickness, and they were only back in school for about a day. So they went in school, they went home. I ended up picking them up the next day. 2 of them were just violently ill for about an 8-day period. And this is just going to keep happening, and they're going to miss school. That's disruptive. So the simple ways that we can start with is obviously encouraging frequent hand washing, making sure that hand sanitizer is always available at all times in several places throughout the schools, and tissues need to be available, and they do not need to go and get brown, scratchy paper towels and wipe their nose with paper towels, because that's completely unacceptable. So I'm not sure. I know that we can squeeze that in somewhere in the budget and make sure that there are at least Dollar Tree tissues available for these children to wipe their nose throughout the day constantly. It should never be something that's not available. Simple. So that's something that I wanted to make sure that I addressed, because it's important, and that should be available in all of the schools, not just in Hamlet. But that situation is something that I'm speaking for, that I've actually confirmed through Hamlet itself. So the next one is also regarding Hamlet, which I'm not sure of any other schools, but that would be bathroom access. So from what I understand, there's only one bathroom available throughout the school, which is down here on the first floor, somewhere around this area, for the entire school, the entire student body to use. So I'm not sure how accurate that is, but again, I did speak to the assistant principal, and she did confirm that there is one bathroom available, and occasionally, through emergency situations only, they are able to use the bathroom that's in the office. So I'm not sure. She said there's vaping going on, and there's been other things going on, and we know that we have all been in school. There's always something going on in the bathrooms. Am I right? There's always something going on in the bathrooms, but that's not acceptable that we are using up we're already on a very tight educational schedule, where everything is crammed into a very small period of time throughout the school day. So for our students to have to come down from whatever floor and wait in a line for one bathroom when we have how many students here? I'm not really sure, but I'm sure it's way too many for one bathroom to be available. So I just think that that's inappropriate and disruptive in an already jam-packed schedule. So I just wanted to have that, addressed, and hopefully we can work on that and open these bathrooms back up. If we need more staff, then we need to figure that out, how we're going to squeeze some more staff from doing something else, and at least make it on another floor too. We need at least 2 bathrooms, or I don't know how many bathrooms are in the school, but I think 1 is just not acceptable. And it shouldn't have to be an emergency situation where we're able to use another. The dress code. So children are receiving dress code issues for wearing fleece pants. Fleece is a warm and comfortable, and I've seen them myself. Fleece is a warm and comfortable material, and we should not have a dress code warning associated with it. They're being considered pajama bottoms, from what I understand, and I've seen it for myself and confirmed it with multiple different students. I talk to a lot of people in the community. Some of you that are here right now might know who I am from this community, but I'm not going to go there. So children wearing fleece pants are not considered pajama pants. These pants are just as if, the fleece Old Navy sweaters. So if they're wearing fleece bottoms, that shouldn't be dress coded. They shouldn't be shamed for it. The way I feel is, if there are further issues on dress code regarding, these fleece pants, or even if the child shows up in pajama pants, as long as they're covered, if there are further issues, then this school district might want to consider uniforms. If we consider uniforms, this would eliminate all confusion and conflict, as well as tremendously reduce peer bullying, and the students will know exactly what to wear every single day without question. So we might want to take that into consideration. And now, again, I'm not talking SpongeBob SquarePants, pajama bottoms. I don't think that that's acceptable or appropriate in this environment. We are readying our children to go out into the workforce and to be able to come into situations like this. We're readying them for this world. So SpongeBob is a little inappropriate, but I think that fleece pants, if that's what's comfortable for them and that's what's warm for them to be able to wear, as long as they're covered up and they look appropriate and they're not out there wearing belly shirts and this, and I've heard that even that's become more lenient, that's fine. But if we do have such a problem with the student body and the clothes that they are wearing, then we might want to consider uniforms here and find space in the budget for that as well. So there just needs to be like a little more flexibility, but I'm not saying that they need to be able to wear things that are inappropriate and that have characters all over them. It's just distracting. I get it. So the next thing would be what we were just talking about, actually, but I ended up missing the questioning section, is teachers shouting and screaming at students. not just teachers, just staff in general. So staff should not be allowed to scream, shout, or yell at students whatsoever. We do understand as parents and staff as well that there are difficult students and circumstances where one may feel that yelling can solve the issue. However, in actuality, this will generally cause trauma in the relationships between staff and students. Students can get defensive or go into fight or flight mode, as many of us adults would in a situation like that when someone's screaming at you. So if nothing else, they might not see that staff member as a member of our community that they can trust because of the explosive nature of that individual in particular, which those individuals can kind of be, for the most part, pinpointed. A lot of the students know exactly which teachers or which staff in different schools are the ones that they need to watch out for. So that is all that I would like to bring to your attention. Again, excuse my unprofessionalism with this, as it's in my phone. I just jotted it down. I wasn't expecting to come up tonight, but I figured, why not? That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for hearing me out. I appreciate it.
Does anybody else want to address the school committee? Hearing and seeing none. Dr. McGee, I'll turn over to you for the recognitions and announcements.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to start by recognizing the Woonsocket High School boys soccer team, who were unfortunately defeated in the Division IV Rhode Island Interscholastic League soccer finals this week. It was a really tough game. They lost to Mount Pleasant 1-0 in double overtime.
Right.
We're going to actually have the members of the soccer team and their coaches here for our meeting in December to recognize a wonderful season they had. This is, I think, one of the best seasons they've had in the history of Woonsocket High School boys soccer. So I want to recognize them this evening on a great season. And they didn't win the championship, but it's not always about winning the championship. It's how you get there. And we're so proud of our boys soccer team. Next, the CCF Connecting for Children and Families Lights on After School Fall Festival is scheduled for tomorrow, November 16th from 5:30 to 7:30 at Villanova Middle School in the cafeteria, which is next door. There will be student speakers and performers from Citizens, Pothier, Coleman, Globe Park, Hamlet, and Villanova Middle Schools, as well as the Woonsocket High School's 21st CCLC after-school programs. In addition to the student speakers and performers, there will be face painting, arts and crafts, raffles, games, refreshments, and much, much more. So I'm looking forward to attending. It's going to be a tough evening tomorrow night because we have that celebration, and then at practically the same time, the Woonsocket Area Career and Technical Center has their open house and holiday photo night. Is going to be from 5 to 7 p.m. tomorrow evening at the Career Center. The open house will be offering tours of the Career Center programs, meeting the instructors, information from post-secondary schools who will be there, and access to industry partners. Students and families will also have the opportunity to schedule a holiday photo. Cost of the photo is $10. Reservations are required. So if you are interested, please call the Career Center and they will reserve a photo session for you. And lastly, Thanksgiving recess begins next Wednesday. So I want to wish all of our families and students and staff and everybody in the Woonsocket Education Department community, as well as the greater Woonsocket community, a very happy Thanksgiving. Classes will resume on Monday, November 27th. So again, I want to wish everyone a very happy and healthy and safe Thanksgiving recess. With that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. McGee. Any comments, questions for Dr. McGee?
Good.
Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the recognitions and announcements. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Burke. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next, I'll make a motion to approve the October 25th. I got September 27th here, but it's October 25th, 2023 open meeting minutes. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Any changes, amendments to the minutes? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke,
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa.
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve the consent agenda. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Does anyone want to take any item to discuss? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke.
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa.
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Next, I'll ask Mr. Cuson to give us his student report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Good to hear you.
For recent events, I would like to start off by just recognizing the importance of the Hispanic Heritage Assembly that we had. I had it listed in my report, but I'm not going to get too repetitive, so I just wanted to recognize it again. These events are the things that build the school community that I had mentioned in previous reports, and it's just always a good thing to have. So as a whole school, we look forward to promoting them and helping to manage them more in the future. Next up, under recent events, the National Honor Society met with the Rhode Island Blood Center at the start of this month. We are currently working together to promote our upcoming blood drive, which will take place after Thanksgiving break. Our goal is to get more blood donors, since after the COVID-19 pandemic, donation rates dropped severely, so we're trying to build that up. We're promoting with more posters around the school, advertising on the morning announcements, incentivizing with gift cards, which is a popular tactic. And hopefully for future blood visits, blood drives, we are hoping to get guest speakers who are or who have been impacted by donated blood. Lastly, for recent events, I'd like to, excuse me, just recognize that our Novin Notice program that was enacted at the beginning of this year has certainly taken root. Just over the past 2 Fridays, I've heard over 20 students get their name called over the announcements because their name was pulled from the drawing. So it is certainly a good thing and is taking root. For upcoming events, we look forward to having our 2 Spirit Days next week, along with a pep rally on Tuesday that will send us into our Thanksgiving break. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but that concludes my report.
Thank you, Matthew. Anyone? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the report from our student representative. All in favor? We have a second, Mrs. Costa?
Yep.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, I'll ask you, Dr. McGee, for your superintendent report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'll begin, as I usually do, with personnel matters update. To date, positions that are still vacant across the district. We have 1 assistant principal position at Woonsocket High School, which I'm hoping. I know that Mr. Ernest and his team and a group of us interviewed candidates, and I'm hopeful that there will be a final candidate who will be appointed very soon. We have 14 teaching positions across the district, 11 teacher assistant positions, and 1 clerical position, totaling 27 positions. Again, we're working hard, especially if you notice, the teacher assistant positions has dramatically gotten smaller. So that's a positive thing. And we're continuing to work very hard to fill as many of these positions as possible. The second agenda item, I'm going to just update the committee on the beloved Woonsocket project update. So we're very fortunate through Gigi DeBello, who is our former Project Aware coordinator here in the district. Gigi works very closely with Kyle Quadros, who is our social emotional director here in the district. And Gigi has been able to communicate and contact some organizations, specifically the Rhode Island Foundation. And we received a $100,000 grant, which is the beloved Woonsocket. And the purpose of this is for us to bring organizations from the Woonsocket community, including the Woonsocket Education Department, together to try to support our youth, not only in our schools, but across the city, around things like conflict resolution. We all are aware, unfortunately, that there's been a rise in violence in the community over the last few years. We've seen a rise in violence in our schools, and this is an opportunity to create an action plan with our community-based organizations so that we can try to minimize the amount of violence that we're seeing in the community and in our schools. We had our first meeting this week, and there were, as I said, many community organizations that were there. We're going to be reaching out to even more community organizations as well. The ultimate goal is for this year, and we'll be meeting monthly, is by the end of the school year in June to have an action plan that we would start implementing next year around supporting our youth and our students across the district and within the community. So very exciting opportunity for us. As the committee is aware, and I've made the committee and the community aware of a lot of very positive things. And we heard about some of them this evening coming from the high school in terms of supporting our students, whether it's peer mentors or, mental health, teen mental health first aid. There are a lot of different things that we're doing here in the district to promote social emotional well-being and to promote, being kind and empathetic to our students and families. So this is it's a great opportunity as we continue the work throughout the course of this school year. I'll be sharing more information with the committee, and certainly at the end of the year when this committee establishes its action plan, we'll share that with you so that you're made aware of what that action plan is going to look like moving forward into next year.
Sure.
And with that, Mr. Chairman, that concludes my superintendent's report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman,
Vice Chair Burke.
I don't know if I heard you correctly, but I don't know if I could ask this question, but when you mentioned Gigi DeBello, you called her the former Project Aware?
So she still oversees that grant. She oversees a variety of mental health grants in the district. That was one. So that's where she was initially hired to do that. She's still with us. However, she's overseeing sort of not just one grant, but she's overseeing a variety of those grants, and she's also working with Mr. Quadros.
So who's the Project Aware director?
So that would be Mr. Quadros working with Gigi. That Project Aware grant that we initially received is coming to a close.
Right.
And there's another grant. There's a Bradley grant.
Right.
So she's working more with that Bradley grant as the Project Aware grant sort of has sunset.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file superintendent's report. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leclerc. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, we'll go into the subcommittee reports. Mrs. Kepiscus, would you give us the CELAC report?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chair. Woonsocket CELAC met on November 2nd at 6 p.m. Under old business, we discussed, as usual, someone assuming the leadership of the CELAC in my stead. Under new business, we discussed a brief review of Judge McConnell's extension of the Olmstead consent decree. The state has until 2024 to meet the deadlines, but the court retains tight control over the oversight of the consent decree until 2026. We had a brief discussion of the RICAS and DLM scores, particularly as they impact students with IEPs or an alternate assessment. Ms. Merrill explained that there are new reading and math programs at the elementary school level and reading programs at the middle school, which focus on resource support. More tools for the resource teachers are being made available to aid in decoding and comprehension for ELA. More tools for increasing computation skills at the elementary level. Social workers and school psychologists are focusing on the behavioral supports necessary because if students aren't supported and controlled through the testing process, are controlled and supported during the testing process, they can provide more focus and attention to being in the classroom and attention to their task, especially at state assessment time. We'll revisit this issue at our next meeting, which will be in January, when we will do a deeper dive into the school's by school review of RICAS and DLM results. They believe that professional development across the district on standardizing the altered assessment curriculum and DLM evaluations should have a positive impact over time. Superintendent, in addressing the CELAC, discussed the RICAS and DLM scores. He had hoped to see increases, however small, as the state generally did, but we saw decreases in both math and ELA instead. IEP student scores were not good, but not that far off state averages. He'll be reporting out to the school committee and the public at a future school committee meeting once they complete their deep dive in disaggregating data. Biggest gains were at Pothier Citizens in math and Savoy in ELA. Biggest loss was at Coleman in math. Lots of work ahead, many layers to this onion. RICAS is but one measure of student success. That's important. I'll say it again. RICAS is but one measure of student success, but the most important to the state of Rhode Island at this moment. One big layer to this problem is the chronic absenteeism and attendance issues that all schools across the district and the nation are suffering from. That problem, unfortunately, just appears to be growing. Addressing us with regard to special ed, Ms. Morell agreed that attendance concerns create problems across the board and raise issues for IEP and AA students. The impact can be even greater for them due to the loss of routine and consistency when they're absent from school. However, you must provide a delicate balance between that and the special health care concerns, which may affect attendance disproportionately among the student population. As liaison for the school committee, I advised all that our next school committee meeting was tonight. Next policy meeting is November 28th, 4 p.m. at Hamlet, room 124. Next curriculum subcommittee meeting is December 5th at 3 p.m. in Hamlet, 124. Mr. Bourget added concerns about recent press about a market at Barry Field. No further business before the CELAC. The meeting adjourned at 6:29. I was disappointed, and I have to say that although we had wonderful attendance from administration, as usual, we had no parents with students with IEPs at this month's meeting. In fact, we had one parent who joined minutes before the meeting ended, about 6:27, who just happens to be a teacher on staff as well, and she regularly attends most of our meetings. So that's disappointing to see. One would hope we'd have more parents attending, considering we have some 27% of our students with IEPs in the district, and I would hope to see that go up. But it's part of a problem that's endemic in the educational system right now. Again, I'd like to remind everyone our next meeting is on January 4th, 2024 at 6 p.m. There's a virtual link that I can provide you. If you provide me with your email address, I'll add you to our list. There is no CELAC meeting in December because I will be out of state. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Kapiskas. Any questions, comments? Then I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the CELAC update. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Next, well, I'll ask Mr. Notoriani to give us a summary of the facility, security, and safety meeting that we had today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Facility Safety Subcommittee met today at 4 p.m. in room 124 here at Hamlet Middle School. We had a discussion about safety and security regarding the police MOA update, ALICE training, safety and security upgrades regarding window treatments, additional radios for the district, which will be coming in the next couple of months, the repeater system here at the middle school to enhance the radio signal for the police. The middle school camera system wiring has been completed, and we had a discussion about the secondary level telephone system and intercom system and about potential replacement for that. In addition to that, we had a discussion about facilities projects, repairing a drainage issue at Savoy Elementary School, a potential sidewalk repair that will be on the next agenda for Pothier, driveway repairs at WACTech, which will appear at the next school committee agenda. What's on tonight's agenda is the handicap ramp repair at TransPro behind the high school. There's no TransPro room so that it's handicap accessible to get to the vans behind the building. We talked about the AED Narcan system, which was completely updated across the district at the committee's request. All new AED units and Narcan have been installed throughout all the school buildings based on the nurses' recommendations. We talked about the paper towel, toilet paper dispenser replacement, the lighting upgrades here at the middle school, and they all appear to be working this evening. Lighting upgrades at the high school, Career Tech, and Savoy. We talked about the HVAC control system upgrades here at both middle schools. The science lab updates that are in progress. Facilities equity initiatives at the high school, particularly at the gymnasium and the locker rooms. At Harris, the Library Media Center gym and CAF, and the Pothia Library Media Center gym and CAF in terms of potential upgrades starting sometime after January and going through the summer of 2024. We did not discuss the high school auditorium update. High school furniture replacement. There'll be furniture coming in throughout December with a supplemental order occurring in December or January for the spring in terms of additional classroom furniture. We talked about the Citizens Pothia oil tank removal, the Harris parking lot lighting update, district-wide signage, which will include, and Dr. McGee raised a good point, I think it was the bus signs we want me to look at as well? We're going to look at bus signs in terms of where the RIPTA stuff is, although I think Mr. Leclerc pointed out it was across the street, but we're going to look into that, Dr. McGee. I forgot that one. I apologize, but I'll take care of it. And Thunder Mist Health in terms of the renovations at the middle school. In addition to that, Durham School Services provided an update on proposed additional busing that would take effect in January, which will mitigate but not truly solve all of our transportation issues. We are hopeful that by adding the additional busing from January through June, it will mitigate the lateness in terms of the pickups at the elementary level. And in particular, we're hoping this will help out the Globe Park staff who've been very generous with their time and staying after school. We're going to talk about discussing traffic flow at the high school and Pothia Citizens with the police department, effectuating a change at Pothia Citizens for this school year sometime in January, and eventual changes at high school and Career Tech for the 24-25 school year. And we talked about the electric school bus arriving and the food truck arriving in the punch list for repairs for that. And that concludes my update on that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Notarianni. Any questions for our director? Make a motion to receive and place on file the technology and facilities update. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Leclerc and Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We have no unfinished business and new business. We have one item. What?
Technology.
Yes. Technology. Mr. Notoriani, you're up. Please.
Just to distinguish, this is the department.
You could have just rolled right into it.
Thank you, Chairman. So as of today, the technology department, the overall work order count is 58, broken down by 44 for the tech staff, which are repairs to the internet and devices and servers. Data staff currently have 0 as of today, which means they're completing things as quickly as they come in. And we have 14 work orders listed with our building principals regarding damaged Chromebooks. The committee may recall there was a question about damaged Chromebooks and accountability. We are sifting those out, and we are issuing invoices. I think it's going to start next week or the week after, based on the 14 Chromebooks that have been deemed malicious by our building principals. In addition to that, technology projects, we are currently going through our cybersecurity upgrades. We're implementing two-factor authentication, which is basically when you log in, it prompts to send a text to your cell phone. You're probably familiar with that with banking. We're required to do that by our insurance carrier. The high school and Career Tech Center Chromebooks is still in progress. We've pushed out all of the new Chromebooks, but now we're going back and collecting all of the old ones, anything that's outstanding, and we're locking them out in case students haven't turned them in. So we are looking to recoup some of our older equipment. The data staff continue to provide support for the start of the school year, even though it's November, because systems are coming online throughout the year. We have many new systems that we've implemented. We're also uploading data to RIDE regarding our graduation data for the high school. So that's something that we'll be completing. Basically, we upload any of the retentions and graduate data over the last 2 cohorts, which the state will use to calculate our graduation rate. So that's a hefty task that our data staff work with the high school on. And the new administration has been working well with the data staff here in the district. So student registration, there's nothing to report. Facilities custodial department have no vacancies. We currently have some openings for lunch monitors and crossing guards, and we have some opportunity to hire. We have an opportunity to hire some custodial subs. The applications keep coming in. And again, thank you to Ms. Kitchen for all of her efforts. We've had quite a few candidates for all of our openings. As of today, there are 88 work orders in the system, which, to give you a point of reference, at this time last year, facilities had 268, so they are catching up. I did talk about this a couple of months ago. They just need time, and hopefully things don't occur that take them off of their usual daily tasks. Of that 51, of the 88, 51 are in-house, meaning our staff need to work on those items. And the balance, or the remaining, what is that, 37 are assigned to outside contractors, whether it's a plumber or we have a contractor to fix the roof or whatnot, or HVAC unit. So the following projects are going to occur sometime in the fall and into the early winter. The distribution of student furniture at the high school, which will begin in December. We talked about facility subcommittee, science labs, the lighting upgrades. We're installing new whiteboards at the high school and the HVAC repairs. Transportation, my update for the subcommittee more or less fills in for that. And safety and security, we're waiting for our additional radios to arrive sometime in December. We were told in November, December. We're still waiting for them to arrive. They're on back order. We talked about the repeaters and the Alice Go buckets. Now that the Alice training is concluded in its first sweep, we're going to be providing what are called Go buckets, which are part of that protocol, and they have different supplies when the classroom needs to evacuate during an emergency. And that concludes my report for technology.
Thank you, Mr. Notarianni. Any questions, comments? I'll make a motion to receive and place on file the technology and facilities update. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Burke and Mr. Leclerc. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Next, I'll make a motion to discuss and approve to rescind P5 certified personal policy P4-13, 13.1, 13.2, and P14-14 athletic policies, and P4-7.9 medication administration policy in the school committee policy handbook. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. Do we need to discuss? All these have been replaced, I assume?
Yes, essentially what happened is when we rescinded the rest of these sections, these select policies were kept in place until we could put a new policy into place. All of those new policies have been put into place. And now we're just doing some basically housekeeping and going back and rescinding the sections we retained. So these have all been replaced by other policies at this point.
Thank you so much. Any other comments? Dr. McGee?
Chairman Bourget,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burke.
Yes.
Mrs. Kepiscus.
Yes.
Mrs. Costa.
Yes.
Mr. Leclerc.
Yes.
Seeing nothing else on our agenda, I'll make a motion to adjourn at 8:02 p.m. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Costa. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.